It looks like the mercenaries are being blessed by a priest. They're going to fight with God by their side. So let's have a big cheer for the mercenaries! It looks like they're sending out a party which will be protected, and the Lancastrians are sending out their own party as well. They're holding their swords to the side, showing that they're not going to fight. And they've brought out an elderly herald with them.
You have taken all the food of the people of this county. They are now starving. Return it at once to their God.
The people from Bec Abbey have demanded their food back, saying that there's going to be starvation amongst the poor people of Ruislip. Let's hear what the answer is from the Lancastrian forces.
Away with your berserker king. Be gone. If you have any honor in them, release them and children who have captive.
It looks like there is no agreement. There is in fact major disagreement. The Lancastrian forces, in defiance of God, have decided not to give up the land. However, they will release the women and children who had been sheltering inside the tithe barns. So we have the poor children, the innocents, who clearly have no place on the battlefield, are going to a place of safety. Now, it was quite often that hostages and innocents would be released, but just as often people would be forced to fight with the innocents around them. It would sap the morale of people if they knew that any stray arrow might kill their families, their children, their wives, their loved ones. So actually, the Lancastrians are being quite generous, allowing their hostages to go free. This also shows that the Medieval Siege Society is actually a large family organisation, and it enables the younger members of our society to take part in our portrayals of battles. The mercenaries are building up a head of steam by shouting out their various chants. Just like football chants today, these are rallying cries so that people would build up their courage and know that they're amongst friends. People who will fight alongside them, fight to the death. Oh, the mercenaries have brought on guns. These terrible weapons would normally be cast out by the church, but clearly the mercenaries have decided that regaining the tithe barns and the abbey's property is the most important thing. So they have hired gunners. And indeed, they have managed to knock down someone. Give a big cheer for the mercenaries there. And I think that these poor Lancastrian forces also deserve a great cheer. You don't want them to break and run, do you? They have as much courage as any.
Open the mouth, open the mouth.
The actual dying is starting, with arrows being shot from each side. By shooting at long range, you can thin out the opposition. The archers would often shoot at each other, and under this cover, they've sent forward an attacking force, trying to break down some of the defences. And while the majority of the Lancastrian forces are distracted, a broad line of mercenary cobhams is coming forward to try and take people in the flank. Now, the Lancastrian forces have an advantage because they are fighting over defences. Numerous weapons are being used, bardishes, which are these swords on a stick. And of course the various single and double-handed swords. Spears are being used. A way of getting into the cracks. And these mercenary forces, the Cobham household, are actually managing to force back the Lancastrian forces very well. The defences are suffering, but most of the defenders are standing strongly. They know that they need these supplies, whereas the mercenaries are fighting. They know they're fighting on the side of God and of good. And in fact, the Lancastrians have managed to force back the mercenaries, who are forced to withdraw. Even today, boxing matches and wrestling matches, each bout only lasts about 3 minutes or 4 minutes at maximum. This is because by that stage you're beginning to overheat. It was just the same in the medieval period. People are wearing armour and padding. Amongst all of this equipment, it's very easy to overheat and have heat stroke or even have a heart attack. So now the Lancastrian forces have succeeded in forcing back the de Cobhams, the mercenaries, the gentlemen in the red and green. So, shall we have a big cheer for the victorious Lancastrian forces? And shall we have a big cheer for those mercenaries who have given a great attack? So both sides have retreated. They are now taking on water. The water carriers are pretty much the unsung heroes of the medieval battlefield. Even in later times, the water and being able to drink and cool down was one of the most critical things. Machiavelli actually writes about a battle where a force won by constantly sending people in and having enough people in their background so that they could rotate people, so some people could take on water and cool down. The opponents didn't have this advantage, and eventually they started collapsing. So that victory was won. I see there is another parley. Parleys would often take place during breaks in a fighting, just to see which side may decide to suddenly give up. After all, mercenaries aren't always the most reliable of people. Sometimes they might be bribed